Hey guys, it's Tyler here, and in this video I just wanted to explain how to calculate and maximize the return on investment of a rental property and all of the different variables that come into play and how you can play around with these variables to increase that ROI. Now, I would consider this the basics and pretty much common sense, but common sense doesn't necessarily mean common practice, and I see far too many people investing blindly into property and not knowing how they can get the best return on their money. Because when we're investing, that's what we're there to do. We're there to make sure we get as much money out for every penny that we put in. And when I talk about return in this video, there are two types of return you get when you invest in a property. And the first one is capital appreciation, which is how much the house prices go up by over time. And then there's also the rental cash flow that comes in every month, every year. And that's the return we're going to be talking about in this video. So what are the main variables that come into play when investing in property? Well, they are: one, the purchase price of a property. Secondly, we've got leverage, which you may have heard the term mortgage before. So when we talk about leverage, we're talking about good debt in the form of a mortgage. We've also got the interest rate of any debt. And then also we've got the type of tenancy, we've got repairs, we've got management, and then we've also got void periods. And I'll go over what each of these mean in just a second, but I'll give you some examples first. So we've got types of tenancy, management, repairs, and voids. So in terms of calculating the return on investment, the formula we use is the return, which is how much the property brings us, over the total investment we've put in, and then we times by 100 to get the percentage. So to give you an example figures, if we were to buy a property for £100,000, and we were to pay £100,000 for it, we were to put £100,000 of our own money into that, the investment would be 100k. And then the return, let's say in this example, it rents out at £600 per month. So the annualized return would be 7,200, which brings us a return on investment of 7.2%. So the next question is then, how can we play around with some of these variables and manipulate this in order to make sure we can increase this figure? So the first thing we want to look at is, well, actually, if we're buying a house for £100,000, we may not necessarily be putting £100,000 of our own money investing in the property. So if we use leverage and we get a mortgage, and typically when investing in property, the banks will give you 75% of a purchase price, it means we only have to put in 25%. So back to this example. If we were to put in 25% and the purchase price is £100,000, our investment is £25,000. Now, because we've taken out a mortgage, we also got to bear in mind there's now going to be interest rate on that mortgage. So let's work on the basis of a 3% interest only mortgage. So 3% of £75,000 is 2,250. And then we have to take that away from the 7,200 annualized rent, which comes in at 4,950. So after we've paid the interest rates from the gross rental income, we're walking away with 4,950. And so what happens to the ROI now? Well, actually, it goes up to 19.8%. So before it was 7.2%, just by using leverage and bearing in mind the interest rate, the ROI is now almost 20%. Now, there are some other variables that also come into play as well. So if we look at management, for example, we know that if we're going to pay someone to manage our property, it's going to cost us anywhere from 8% of the total income to 12% on the high end. But if we just stick with a conservative number of 10%, that means we're going to be paying 10% per year of the 7,200, which is £720. And again, we then have to take this off the 4,950 because although from the rent, after we've paid the interest rate on the mortgage, we walk away with this, we've then got to pay the 720, which comes out 4,230. So this then takes the return on investment to 16.92%, which is still much higher than the 7.2% we discussed earlier. Now, what about purchase price? Well, if the purchase price of the property is £100,000, that means we're paying £100,000 for it. And it's important you understand the difference between the purchase price and the market value of a property. Because in this example, the property may be worth the £100,000, but it doesn't necessarily mean we have to pay £100,000 for it. So when I talk about market value, that's what a surveyor would value the property at. That's what it would sell for if it went to the open market. But in property, if you can learn how to find and negotiate good deals and discounted properties, and you can agree to purchase them below market value, you can buy properties that are worth £100,000 for a lot less. So instead of paying £100,000 for it, you may choose to just pay £80,000 for it, which is 20% below market value. It's a 20% discount. And you're probably asking, how is that possible? Who would sell their property for £20,000 less? Well, like I say, that's a totally different video, but if you can learn how to find and negotiate good deals like this, and for example, you may come across a seller who is in a bit of financial difficulty and needs to sell their property quickly, and in return, they're happy to sell it at a discount if you can purchase it from them and get the transaction through quickly to help them out. So instead of buying the property for £100,000, if we buy it for £80,000, how does that affect the figures? Well, first of all, the deposit's going to change. So we're going to be paying 25% of £80,000, which is £20,000. And then also the interest rate is going to change because a loan is a lot smaller now. So we have to work out 3% of the debt, which is going to be 75% of 80,000, which is going to be 60k. So 3% equals £1,800. So now our net figure goes up that we're receiving in the rental cash flow to 4,680. So once we plug these numbers back into the calculation, the return on investment goes up to 23.4%. So you can see just by lowering the purchase price, taking into account leverage and using good debt to the best of our ability, bearing in mind interest rate, bearing in mind management, and then also bearing in mind other things, we can really begin to move and play around this interest rate. And some of the other variables we can look at is, for example, the type of tenancy. So in this example, if we're renting this property out, it could be a 2 or a 3 bedroom property. I'm getting £600 a month for it. That would be as a single let, which means we're renting out the house to one family who's just paying the £600 for the whole house. What if we decide to rent it out as a multi-let, where we convert the bedrooms into independent units and just rent it out on a room by room basis? And instead of having one tenant paying £600 per month, we've got 3 tenants paying £400 a month or £350 per month. That way, this rental income increases, this stays the same, so this is going to increase as well. And I'm not going to go into detail about how high we can get this figure, but if you have a property rented out as a multi-let, it's going to generate more cash flow. Therefore, this is going to increase. Also, if we bear in mind voids, which are any months that go by where the tenants aren't paying or there's no tenants in the property, if we can eliminate these through marketing the property correctly, getting good tenants in, same with repairs. If we have good tenants, there's going to be less repairs. Again, it's just going to mean this number can increase. So it's entirely possible to get 20 to 30% return on investment when investing in property just by being smart with these few things. So I've simplified things a little bit there, guys, but I hope that makes a lot of sense. Just some things for you to think about when buying your next property. And this sort of goes really to explain why you shouldn't pay cash for a house or why you shouldn't not use debt for a house. So I hope that makes sense, guys. I've simplified a few things there a little bit, but this is just to get you thinking, open your mind to how you can make the most out of these things to make sure you're getting as much bang for your buck as you can. And if you like this video, I've got more like this coming. So make sure you hit the like button, subscribe. If you want to learn more about property investing as well, I've put together a 90-minute free training. The link is in the description below this video. And guys, I will see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.